The nanny's secret: the rain fell gently on the quiet streets of Maple Grove, creating soft ripples in the puddles that reflected the warm glow of the streetlights. Marcus Wellington stood at his office window, watching the water cascade down the glass. At 38, he had built an empire in real estate, but wealth couldn't fill the emptiness that had consumed his life since Sarah's passing 3 years ago. His daughter Emma, now 7, was the only light that remained in his world. She had her mother's bright blue eyes and infectious laugh, though that laugh had become rare since losing her mom. Marcus knew he was failing her in ways he couldn't quite understand. His long hours at the office, his struggle to connect with her emotional needs, his inability to be both father and mother, it all weighed heavily on his shoulders. That's when Grace Mackenzie entered their lives 6 months ago. She was 26, with warm brown eyes and a gentle smile that seemed to reach Emma immediately. Grace had a way of making their cold, marble-floored mansion feel like a home again. She would arrive each morning at 8, her blonde hair always perfectly styled, carrying a bag full of art supplies and storybooks. Under Grace's care, Emma began to flourish. She started drawing again, her pictures filled with bright colors instead of the dark scribbles that had worried Marcus for months. She would run to the door when Grace arrived, chattering excitedly about their plans for the day. Grace had a gift for turning ordinary moments into adventures. Rainy afternoons became indoor camping trips, and simple walks turned into treasure hunts. But Marcus noticed something else about Grace. Despite her cheerful demeanor during work hours, there was something in her eyes when she thought no one was looking, a sadness that seemed to mirror his own. She would sometimes stare out the window with a distant expression, her fingers unconsciously twisting a thin gold ring she wore on her right hand. Grace lived modestly, he knew that much. She took the bus to work each morning and always politely declined his offers to drive her home. She wore the same few outfits in rotation, always clean and pressed, but clearly well worn. When Emma had asked if Grace could stay for dinner one evening, Grace had gently explained that she had to get home to take care of some things. Marcus found himself curious about this woman who had brought such joy back into his daughter's life. What was her story? Where did she go each evening when she left their warm, comfortable home to venture back into the world? The opportunity to find out came on a particularly rainy Thursday evening. Marcus had left the office early, hoping to surprise Emma and perhaps take them both out for dinner. As he pulled into his driveway, he saw Grace walking toward the bus stop, her thin jacket pulled tight against the rain. Something prompted him to follow her. Perhaps it was concern for her safety in the storm, or maybe it was simple curiosity about this woman who knew so much about his family while revealing so little about herself. He kept his distance, driving slowly behind the bus as it wound through the more affluent neighborhoods and into the older part of town. When Grace stepped off the bus, Marcus parked and followed on foot. The neighborhood was a stark contrast to his own narrow streets lined with modest apartments and small shops. Grace walked purposefully, her head down against the rain, until she stopped in front of a weathered building with a sign that read, "Sunset Manor Assisted Living." Marcus watched from across the street as Grace used a key to enter through a side door. Through the lit windows, he could see her moving through the hallways, stopping to chat with elderly residents who seemed to know her well. She wasn't just visiting, she was working. Intrigued and concerned, Marcus made a decision that would change everything. He approached the front desk the next day, explaining that he was interested in learning more about their programs. The receptionist, a kind woman named Helen, was happy to give him the tour. "Oh, you must mean Grace," Helen said when Marcus mentioned seeing a young blonde woman the previous evening. "She's been with us for almost 2 years now. Works the evening shift, 7 days a week, one of our most dedicated caregivers." As they walked through the facility, Marcus learned more about Grace's other life. She worked from 6 in the evening until 2 in the morning, caring for elderly residents who needed assistance with daily activities. She had a special gift for connecting with those suffering from dementia, spending extra time with residents who had no family visitors. "She's studying to become a registered nurse," Helen explained. "Takes online classes during her breaks and on weekends. Never complains, never misses a shift." Some of our residents ask for her specifically. Marcus felt a weight settle in his chest. Grace was working 2 jobs, caring for his daughter during the day and elderly residents at night, all while pursuing her education. The realization of her sacrifice hit him like a physical blow. That evening, as Grace was preparing to leave, Marcus asked if he could speak with her privately. They sat in his study, the rain still pattering against the windows. "Grace," he began. "Carefully, I know about your job at Sunset Manor." Her face went pale as she looked down at her hands. "I'm sorry, Mr. Wellington, I know I should have told you, but I was afraid you might think I couldn't give Emma my full attention during the day. I would never let my other job interfere with caring for her." Marcus shook his head. "That's not why I'm bringing this up. Grace, you're working nearly 20 hours a day. When do you sleep? When do you take care of yourself?" Tears began to form in Grace's eyes. "I manage. I have to. My grandmother was at Sunset Manor before she passed last year. I started working there to be close to her, and I stayed because those people need someone who cares. And I need this job with Emma to pay for my nursing classes." "And the ring on your right hand?" Marcus asked gently. Grace touched the thin gold band unconsciously. "It was my grandmother's wedding ring. She raised me after my parents died. I wear it to remember her strength." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, processing everything he had learned. This woman, who had brought such light into his daughter's life, was sacrificing her own well-being to care for others while building a future for herself. "Grace," he said finally, "I have a proposition for you." "What if I told you that you could continue your nursing studies full-time and still be part of Emma's life?" Over the following weeks, Marcus arranged for Grace to transition to a live-in position. She would have her own suite in the house, complete with a study area for her coursework. In exchange for being available for Emma after school and on weekends, Marcus would pay for her nursing program and provide a generous salary. But more than that, Grace became family. She brought warmth and laughter back into their home in ways Marcus hadn't expected. Emma had a maternal figure who understood her needs, and Marcus found himself looking forward to the evenings they spent together, sometimes helping Grace with her studies while Emma played nearby. 6 months later, as Marcus watched Grace graduate from nursing school with Emma cheering loudly from the audience, he realized that sometimes the most important discoveries aren't about what someone is hiding, but about recognizing the extraordinary character of the people who touch our lives. Grace had never been just a nanny. She had been an angel in disguise, teaching them both about resilience, compassion, and the true meaning of family. And in caring for her the way she had cared for others, Marcus found that his own heart had begun to heal. The rain still fell on Maple Grove, but now it sounded like music against the windows of a house that had finally become a home again.